Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, we are back again, and we are back with a vengeance with all these wonderful questions, because we've got basically 2 weeks worth, if I can get my words out properly. That's because I wasn't here last week, so sorry about missing last week's show, but we are back. Here we are, and we're going to jump into these questions in just a moment. Before I'm going to remind you, I am going to learn to speak this week. Okay. So first, I'm going to remind you to like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. You know what to do there. But most importantly, if you like the show, if you like the channel, if you like the instructional videos, if you like the analysis videos, the feedback videos, all this sort of thing that I do for absolutely free, and there's more coming soon, all you've got to do to support us is shop at KendoStar.com. Now, that's the best and most wonderfulest, brilliantest Kendo store, online store to ever have graced humanity. And of course I would say that because I own the place, but if you check out our reviews, you'll see that everybody agrees with me. So shop at KendoStar. Win-win. You get amazing gear, I get to keep this channel rolling, I get to feed my kids, everybody's happy. Okay, right, let's get to these questions. Okay, good. Right, so good evening, Fish Sense. I hope all is good, as I haven't seen any new videos recently. Yeah, so that's because last week I was just off. All right, hopefully you're not very busy. You're just very busy with other KS fairs. Yeah, basically that's it. I haven't been watching some of your old I haven't been watching some of your old video reviews, and I've been wondering if you could provide any tips in regard to Fumikomi while doing Hikiwaza. Many thanks and take care. Yeah, so it's a bit hard for me to show you on here, but Fumikomi for Hikiwaza, if you watch my video about Hikiwaza and Subazeri, I actually go through it a bit in there. There's a couple of different ways of doing it, and for me, they're kind of situational. The sort of basic version is, if you got your feet this way, is to sort of jump back and stamp on the right as you jump back this way, okay? This way. And that's kind of the more sort of popularized way. I find that useful in some situations, especially if you need to take that little bit of extra distance. The problem with it, of course, is that it telegraphs a little bit because you start to go back as you start to hit. So that's one way to do it. The other way, which is my sort of preferred way if I can get away with it, but it depends, is I'll tend to make the distance in my actual Subazeri with my hands, and then what I'll do is from here, my feet, I'll do the Fumikomi on the spot there, and I'll use that, bam, to push me backwards as I hit, bam, this way. Okay, I like that way of doing the Fumikomi from Hikiwaza. It's not so easy if you're not used to doing it. You just need to practice it though, just like the forwards Fumikomi, and you'll definitely get to grips with it. Okay, but give the video I've done about Hikiwaza a view, and you'll probably pick up some tips from that as well. Good afternoon, Fish Sense. Today I had a chance to see a recording of myself during Shinai, and one of the things that caught my eye is the S-shaped syndrome. I like that. I guess being tall and a tall guy at 192 centimeters doesn't help matters. Well, I don't know. Would you be so kind as to provide some posture pointers that I can start working on to correcting it right away? Many thanks. So what I'm talking about here is, this is something that's come up in a lot of these like feedback videos that I've done. Lots of people have this kind of S-shaped kamae, where they're sort of, it's an exaggeration, but their kamae is shaped more like an S than it is like a capital A, like a pyramid or something, which is how I prefer it to be. It comes from the positioning of your hips. What you're doing is your hips are too far forward, and you're taking the weight of the shinai on your hips. All right, so your hips are forward and your head's coming forward. Yeah, so you've got this sort of S shape. Yeah, what you need to do is you need to push the hips back, and you need to push the shoulder blades together this way, all right, so that you stand up tall as if someone's measuring your height, see, and then I go this tall, because really I'm really tall. I just crouch down for the video. I'm a really tall guy. I'm about 192 centimeters myself. Around that, I'm within sort of a 30 centimeter range. It's not necessarily about being tall, but it's about stretching your chest open, shoulder blades together. Not like, don't force it though, like this, yeah, but open it a little bit. Right shoulder slightly in front of the left, hips square though, but straight. So push your hips back so that you're carrying the shinai with your hands and not with your hips. Yeah. So like if I can get the shot, let's see if I can do it. So like, instead of like this, so that the shinai is the weight of the shinai is on the hips here. Yeah. I push the hips back and it's carried by my hands. You can't really see it on this video. I apologise for that, but I'll try and make a video about that. I reckon that'll be a good idea. We'll do a video about how to improve your kamae. I think that's a good one for the new series of instructional videos that will be coming soon. Okay, so push the hips back, put the shoulder blades together, and try to stand as if someone's measuring how tall you are. All right. Next one. Hi Andy, I'm about to enter my first Sshape in 2 weeks at 4th Q level. Mostly I've practiced Uchikomi but not actual Sshape. Mostly big Kihon cuts, not small cuts. Can you give me any advice for first time Sshape, like what to focus on? Is it winning? Is it doing basics well? As it seems there's so many things I could concentrate on. Currently I'm thinking ki loud, good posture, try to relax shoulders, semi with step in, try to force a reaction and cut, and stay concentrating with turnaround and do again and again. If you have time to comment with suggestions, thank you. Okay, so you're kind of partly right. So at 4th Q level, yes, Sshape is about winning. That is what it's for. You have to try your best to win. That is important, all right? That doesn't mean you win at all costs, yeah, but you have to try your best to win. Having said that, so what you need to do is, yes, ki loud, shout loud. One thing I always used to tell kids that I used to teach is, if anything else, don't lose with the voice. All right, so make sure you at least win the battle of the biggest voice. Yeah, so have the good loud ki. Yeah, you'll need the good posture. Try to relax. Seme with step in, try force reaction. I don't think you need to worry about that too much at this stage, especially it's your first one. Instead, just try to hit men with good spirit and zanshin. Try to use the small cuts if you can, and try to keep your eyes on your opponent. Try not to hit and run off into the distance. You have to, if you watch my video about zanshin, and if you hit, then what you need to do is sort of try not to lose sight of them, all right, because it's not actually correct zanshin to do that. But just don't worry about it too much. Just try to fight with big spirit and just try to hit men. Don't worry too much about, and don't worry about the result. It's your first one, all right? So just do that. Yes, try to win, but don't care if you don't. It doesn't matter too much. Okay. You'll have plenty more chances in the future. Okay, we've got a bit of a long one here. Let's see. Let's have a look. To explain my situation, I started kendo in uni at my school's club. Currently, I'm no rank, and I've been in Boga since the start of last fall. I was about to wear Boga late spring 2020, but yeah, that thing. I have a really basic gi and hakama set, and also a basic Boga bag, a basic Boga. I'm graduating soon and found a job that starts at the end of summer, and there's going to be a kendo dojo near me. I'd like advice on purchasing Boga sets and kendo uniform. Right now, I'm looking at your kachi hakama gi and kachi gi and hakama set and the Kamae Boga set. I'm looking to continue kendo and possibly look to practice around 2 to 3 times a week. Are there any advantages, disadvantages to these products? Since I'm a low rank, I'm looking mostly for products low maintenance and look good enough. I really like how the Kamae set looks. Should I buy 2 kachi sets? Also, do you sell any Boga stands? I'd like to use one for drying purposes, since currently I just toss everything on my bed after practice. Ooh, I don't do that, yeah. And take it off before I sleep. Also, thank you so much for making the Kendo RANT videos. They're very informative and entertaining. My only complaint about them is I haven't been studying for finals because I've been too busy watching videos. Yeah, don't do that. All right, so look, let's summarize this. Yeah, you're about to leave university, you've got yourself a job, you're going to be practicing 2 to 3 times a week, you want something that's easy to maintain but looks decent. Yeah, you want the kachi uniform, it looks awesome, it's dead easy to care for. If you're practicing twice a week, 1 set should be okay, but you'd be better off with 2 just in case, just to rotate them a little bit and get them to last a bit longer. But you would be all right, to be honest. Kamae board set's a perfect one, to be honest. Dead low maintenance set. It looks great. It's comfortable, protective. You don't have to worry about caring for it too much. Should dry pretty easily. Should be pretty straightforward for you. The only thing to bear in mind with it, of course, is that it does take a little bit of time for production. So what you have to sort of care about is, if we're not going to be able to ship it out the next day, but if you've already got a basic Borga set, you can still use that in the meantime, right? So yeah, that's that. I think you bob on really. Yeah, the kachi with the Kamae, they're a real match made in heaven. About Borga stands, we don't sell them at the minute. They're a little bit hard to get hold of, to be honest, and they sort of sell out at short notice from the suppliers, so they're a little bit of a pain for us to sell. They're also heavy and expensive to ship, so I don't really like selling them. So at the moment, no. I don't recommend putting it on your bed if you can help it, but if you just get the Borgo out and don't leave it in the bag. Just leave it out to dry. Try to leave it with the mengane facing up rather than down if you can, and just the kote face palm up, and leave it to dry before you put it away. It'll be fine. And I'm really glad you enjoyed the videos, but I'm sorry I've disturbed your studying. Don't do that. Okay, good. Okay, next one. Hello, any advice for Yondan exam, the Shinsa part, please? Regards from Peru. Okay, so the big thing about Yondan is the part where a lot of people fall down, because they're not just looking for your technical ability anymore. That matters. You still need to be technically competent, right? But now they're looking at more than just what you're doing from a technical point of view, but they're also looking at how you're starting to interact with your opponent. All right, so that means that your waza, your techniques, have to have some semblance of what's called di. Okay, so a rationale, a reason. Why is this waza happening, or why did you select that technique? All right, now it doesn't have to be super esoteric. We're not asking for sort of Jedi levels of Seme, but what we're looking at is whether there's an actual reason why you're selecting the techniques you are, rather than just throwing them out at random because you wanted to give them a try. So that's what you really need to think about. So what you need to start doing is, when you're doing your jigeko, your keiko, your dojo, start thinking about, why am I choosing the techniques, or watching your opponent and thinking, how can I select the right waza for this situation? All right. If they, you just have to start thinking about that. Okay. If I step in, do they attack? If so, what order waza can I use? Can I use Debano waza? Do they not attack? So then can I use Shikake waza? Things like this. All right. And that will definitely help you. Next one. Hello, Andy. Trying again since the last one was cancelled. You mean the show, right? What would you recommend as a good workout routine for endurance? I'm seeing myself slowing down fast because I get tired. I can usually power through it, but I end up with very sore legs and arms, or I just collapse mid execution. Not fun. Thank you again. Best informative Kendo channel on YouTube. Thank you. Keep up the good work. My shinai from KendoStar still holds well, and I'm happy with my purchase. Good. Yeah, I get this question quite a lot. I don't really know. I don't think there's a lot of exercises you can particularly do specifically for endurance, because you get loads of people who are super fit, right, and they start kendo and they're absolutely sort of gassing out halfway through the beginning of class. So there is that. Look, what I would just try to do is try to increase my general stamina. Try to increase my general stamina by maybe hitting the gym, running, sort of cardiovascular stuff. And then for muscular stuff, yeah, maybe a bit of strength training to make sure that your muscles are in shape, but also thinking about what you're eating and that you're properly hydrated. Things that I tend to do is I will use I sometimes use protein shakes, hard session, a hard long practice, I'll try to ingest some sort of protein shakes or foods that are high protein. Bananas pretty good as well, because I think they've got potassium in it or something like that that's good for your muscles. I remember when I injured myself, like I was advised to eat bananas to help myself heal. Don't know if there's anything in that, but it worked. And yeah, I think that's the main things that you can do. Obviously, make sure you stretch, and then otherwise you just have to try to just kind of, increase it through repetition. Not a great piece of advice, I expect, but I'm not an expert on that sort of thing. So. Hi Andy, I think it would be interesting to have a discussion around the differences and similarities of Seme and Irimi. The two concepts share some common factors, but I'm also keen to hear observations on how they differ. Not an easy one to pin down, maybe. So, all right, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of people might not have heard the term Irimi. Irimi, let's have a look at it in the good old dictionary. This is the Japanese to English Kendo dictionary from the Zenken. Then we've got this on KendoStar. Irimi, the act of taking a position sideways to the opponent and quickly penetrating close to the opponent's hands. Taking this Irimi stance is regarded as important in all three shidachi moves in the Nippon Kendo Kata for the kodachi. Okay, so in the kodachi kata, right? Essentially, right, what happens is you've got a short sword. The shitachi has got the short sword, right? So the shitachi is wary that as they're stood side on, they're going to quickly move into the distance to make up for the short sword and obviously get them with it before they've got a chance to react. This idea is irimi, okay? This idea of getting into that close range while stood side on to do that. It's not super applicable to shinai kendo, is it? So I think it's also probably interpreted a bit as when you make a sort of bold step in, pressuring probably towards the hands in your chudan from in shinai kendo. So from in any case, in terms of its relationship with seme, right? So if we talk about it from the kata point of view, it kind of relates to the shinai point of view as well. But seme is something that's generated from the act of irimi, right? Because you're here like this with the kotachi, and you're coming straight in with that pressure and the forcing that reaction from the uchitachi. In kata 1, of course, it's the act of stepping in 1, 2, 3. Oh, he's coming, so they cut straight away, yeah. And number 2, they're sort of pressured and they make that cut whilst they're under pressure. Similar in number 3, 1, 2, 3, they try to beat him to the punch because they don't want to get on the receiving end of that kotachi. So that's where it comes from, all right? And the concept itself does spill over into shinai kendo, even if we don't do it in the same physical way, because it's the same when you do make that sort of bold, hard step in this way, and the opponent is kind of on the back foot or panics and makes an attack sort of reluctantly. That's where it kind of connects, if you know what I mean. But I wouldn't heavily use the term irimi in shinai kendo, because as I say, the book here sort of describes it as a section of the Nihon Kendo Kata, particularly in the kotachi kata. So that's where I guess I stand on that. Next one. Hello Andy, during our pre-shinta seminar 2 weeks ago, we were taking a break from a long productive set of exercises to get a drink. I accidentally got water on my beautiful KendoStar Zekken. Some of the white embroidery is now quite blue from the eyes on my dye running into it, and I wanted to know what's the best way of cleaning it to get those pristine whites back. That's a difficult one. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't think there's anything I'd like to recommend that I think would be worth risking it. It might just damage the thread. I don't think it's a major problem though. It's not that unusual, of course, for you know, for the zekken to be stained a little bit blue. What you can do is you could rub, like, really gently rub the affected threads with a really soft or gentle brush or sponge, maybe like a cotton bud. I think in America you call them a Q-tip. I've seen that in movies. You know, those little plastic sticks, or not plastic these days, with the little bits of cotton wool on the end. Look at that, crossing cultural barriers. And like dip it in some like rubbing alcohol or white spirit or something like that, or some kind of thinners, and you could really gently do it. That would probably do it, but I wouldn't. Don't be overzealous with it, right? Because I don't want you to rip or damage the threads. Next one. Hi Andy, could you explain the different kind of shinai and why they are different? Right, well, that's quite a deep question. I've done a video about it already, and I'll probably do another one in the near future. But let's brush over it quickly. All right, so here I've got a KendoStar model all-purpose shinai. It's our ultimate all-purpose shinai. Whoops, just bashed the microphone with it. This is a great all-round shinai. Essentially, this shinai is made as a sort of standard shinai, where you have a nice balance. It's slightly wider here. This is called the door section, the body. It's slightly wider here with a slight taper towards the tip, but not too much of one. So you're keeping some meat at the end here, so it's nice and durable where it's going to get hit. This is a kind of standard type shinai. Now, what you also have, you have something called a door body shinai, which is often called a jisen gata shinai. Essentially, door body means this is the door, and door body means that this part is fatter or wider. All right, so that brings some of the weight closer to the hand still, so the tip feels that little bit lighter. Now, when it's called a jisen gata, that is sometimes exaggerated slightly, or what they've done is they've made it a door body and then they've made the tip thinner as well. So it's like in Japanese they often call it door body or jisen sakiboso. So like the tip is thinner. Now that's great because it feels super light, really light, because the tip's really fast to move around. The downside of it, though, of course, is it loses durability because it's thinner up here, obviously. Secondly, if you have a sort of habit of lifting your hands a lot or swinging with your right hand, it can sort of feed into that a little bit. The other option you've got, of course, is the koto gata, sometimes called chokdo. That's where the shinai is almost the same width across the whole blade, so it's called a koto, which means like old sword, so like more like a real sword balance wise, to some extent. Essentially the balance is distributed evenly. What you'll find with that is the tip feels a little bit heavier. That's really good though for having a good solid kamae, trying not to lift the tip of the shinai too much, and it makes your strikes really solid. But of course, it's not as sort of fast and whippy for like some intricate, maybe like hikiwaza or ojiwaza or renzoku waza, stuff like that. So they're the main things, and within that, of course, you've got different aspects of the shinai that can be different as well. You can have them with shorter grips, with oval grips, hexagonal grips, all the octagonal grips, sorry, all these different things as well. But they're the main sort of overview types. Best thing to do is use an all-purpose shinai, or possibly a koto shinai for your kihon, uchikomi, kirikaishi, that sort of thing, and then use like a door body or a jisen gata for keiko and shiai. Is the best sort of recommendation, but everyone finds, different things themselves. Next one. Sorry, probably this has been addressed a long time ago. Just saw a video where Kendoka was in wakigamae. This has always intrigued me for reasons that I won't waste your time with, but is this a thing? Allowed, not allowed, very rare, frowned upon, just unwise? So wakigamae is obviously the one where you hold the shinai behind you. It's allowed, of course it's allowed. It's not frowned upon. I don't think anyone would consider you as taking kendo all that seriously if you were trying to fight from that position. It's not it's not a tactically what shall I say, like advantageous strategy to use that kamae. It's rubbish in kendo, to be honest. We don't use cuts up, like from below upwards. Kendo's not kenjutsu, right? Kendo doesn't use cuts, right? We use strikes in kendo. They're called datotsu. Yeah, they're not. It's called menuchi, kote uchi. Yeah, it's not called. We don't use the word kiru hardly. So it's not. It's not useful in Kendo. It lives in the kata as a way of preserving history, and that's mainly it. So don't just forget about it from a shinai point of view. Hey Sensei, I hope you're doing well. I had a question on kote. I was wondering how tight or loose you should tie it. Is there a consensus on it? Having a little hard time figuring out what fits me. Should I go looser or tighter? Also, do you have any videos how to tie them properly? I feel like I might not be tying them correctly. Thanks for the awesome help. Okay, I don't have a video on how to tie them properly, but maybe I'll do one. In terms of how tight or loose it should be, it shouldn't be so loose that it's sort of flapping around or that there's himo dangling about. And it should be loose enough though that you can get your hand in without having to sort of wrestle it in. You want the kote baton to sit as a kind of cylinder rather than a cone. And that's basically it. Otherwise, there's no sort of regulation on it too much. I think it'd be better if you have a tiny little bit of space between your forearm and the kote baton, just as a little bit of a sort of shock absorber, and that would help as well. Hello Sensei, what would you say to the idea of a black ajiro bamboo dodai? Would KendoStar do it? Okay, so the ajiro dodai is it's like bamboo, and you can see the bamboo, and then there's a lacing on the front. It's like the really old-fashioned one. It's actually like in the old days, like people that couldn't afford like a door that was covered with leather would use that one. So I couldn't afford, didn't want to spend the money, or maybe couldn't afford, but whatever. It was like the cheap version of the door. You can still get them, I think. I think we can still get a black one. I'm pretty sure we could, to be honest. What do I think about the idea? I think it's a bad idea, if I'm honest. There's a couple of reasons. Ajiro door in the first place are not brilliant, to be fair. They're not super durable. They're not super protective. And yeah, they're much more flexible than ones that are like either plastic or synthetic, or ones that are covered in leather and lacquered. So they tend to flex a lot. So they're not great from a protective point of view. They also the black one, the paint wears off those well fast, so they start to look really sort of tatty and battered really quickly. I know that you could consider it sort of battle scars and stuff like that, but it's, it starts to look a little bit rough a little bit too soon. So I recommend against it. Durability wise as well, of course, they're bound together with pieces of leather, which are on the front, which is then taking strikes from the shinai over and over again. So they're not going to last that long compared to a sort of more standard type door that doesn't have to worry about that either. So I'd recommend against it, but if you really, really want one, let me know and we'll sort it out for you. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Can you talk about the relationship between Zen philosophy and Kendo? Not a complicated theoretical point of view, but your interpretation as Kenshi. Well, the problem is I can't really, because I don't know much about Zen philosophy. I only really know about Kendo philosophy, and I hear that it's very, very similar. There's some very, obviously Kendo's inspired a lot from Zen. I understand that, but I don't know enough about Zen to talk about it in detail. What I would say is that Kendo exists as a manner of self-improvement, and I really, really believe that. I don't think that it's just something that's there as a kind of airy-fairy thing to sort of say, well, yeah, Kendo is this sort of thing. I don't think that. I think Kendo really does help you grow as a human being. It certainly has for me. I've done a video on about how Kendo makes you a better person. It's about an hour long, but it's worth it. I think it's a good, it's one of the videos I'm really proud of, because I really go into depth as to how I think Kendo helps us develop as people and helps us become better members of society. So if you get a chance, go and watch that, and I'll talk about how, for example, how our behavior in everyday life is linked to our behavior at Kendo, the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we deal with difficult situations, stressful situations. In Kendo, we intentionally expose ourselves to emotionally and physically difficult situations or trials, right? And that's kind of practice for the real world. So go and watch that video, and I think that'll help you out a lot in response to that question. Okay, last one. Hello, Fish Sensei. I hope everything is well on your side. I've been training for almost a year now, and I keep having feedback on cutting with my arms instead of using the hips. I see some videos of my training and competition. I understand why this happens, but I can't find a way to fix this. Detail. Do you happen to have any recommendations how to cut with the hip instead of the arms? Thank you in advance. Yes, I do. So first you have to think about what I talked about earlier in the video about the Sshape Kamae. All right, if your hips are forward and you're carrying the weight of the shinai on your hips, you ain't gonna get your hips engaged into your strike. And they say cut from the hips. It's not cutting from the hips. It means, what it actually means is striking with proper kikentai no ichi. All right, that means unifying the sword, body, and spirit. And it means that the body is not fully unified. Is that a right word? I don't know. It's not in unison with the rest of the strike. I think that's the the crux of it when people say use the hips, cut from the hips, that sort of thing. And what you have to do is, you have to get your hips in the right position from your kamae, okay, first of all. So think about that. And then secondly, it comes from your left leg rather from your actual hips, all right? Your left leg needs to have all the power stored up in the calf. That's called tame, okay? Your left heel off the floor, slight pressure downwards and diagonally backwards, ready to launch you forward at the very moment you need to strike. That is called tame, and that is what is going to help you make sure that when you launch forward and not upwards or in any other sort of direction, okay? So think about that, fix that kamae, and then think about keeping that tension and power stored up in that left calf as you push downwards and away on the floor in your kamae, ready for the moment to strike. Pam! You can leap forward and strike, okay? And think about leaping forward, not upwards, yeah? And I think with that in your mind, as you practice, you'll start to improve on that aspect. Okay, there we are. We've reached the end of this fantastic set of questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for sending them in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that. Shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.